IAM policies and IAM roles. How do they work? How can they impact our working? Okay. So basically, we are going to deep dive into AWS IAM. IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. Okay, Identity and Access Management. So here we will be covering overview, IAM policies, then what IAM roles are, what are the best practices to work on these policies and roles, and then use cases and example. Okay, so I will start with what is IAM, then these all the concepts of IAM, then how, like, go for each and every part, like policies, users, groups, everything I will show you, and then I will show you the examples as well. Okay, I will show you how to provide the access securely. I was planning to start S3, but for S3 at least you should know what IAM is, because we need to provide IAM permissions there. That's why I'm starting this IAM today. Okay. So it is specifically for security, access and identity management. Okay. So this is basically the fundamental of security, and it essentially controls who can access within your AWS account, within your AWS environment. Okay. And understanding this IAM part is critical, because misconfigured permissions can lead to various security breaches. Okay, so let's suppose if you provide some incorrect IAM permissions, then those can lead to security breaches within your AWS. So this IAM matters because it emphasizes the security is shared between AWS and customers. Okay. So basically this is a global service. Okay. Let me go to AWS portal now. Now I am leaving this back. So if I go to AWS and search for here IAM. So this is, if you see here, see, there are two type of services basically, in the sense of region wise. One are which are specified by the region, and one which are not specified by the region, which are global. So IAM is global service. Okay, it means it is not region specific. If you create one IAM policy, one IAM group, one IAM user, it will be applicable for all the regions. Okay.
Okay.
Once you make changes there in IAM policies, those changes will get replicated globally. Those can take time, well, let suppose few seconds, like more than 10-15 seconds, but yeah, those will get applied over global all global resources. Okay, so basically we can say it as central model for security of AWS, for managing the AWS security. And you can either allow or else you can deny as well through this IAM. So let's take an example. Let's suppose you want to give, there's one resource, there's one EC2 instance. Okay, you want to give access of that instance to everyone in your account, to all the users whoever have access to your AWS, but you want to deny for one user only. Okay, so you can do that as well via IAM. Okay, now let's start with this, like users, like its components. So initially if we go, users will contain all the users. Okay, so user is like, you can create one user here. Okay, once you create the user, you can provide the permissions, then that user will be able to log in like I logged in. Okay, so how did I log in? I provided in under IAM, I provided account ID. I provided IAM user, and then I provided password. So I hope you remember yesterday, like how did we log in, right? In that way, any user can log in. For that, what we have to do, we have to create the user. So let's go to create the user. Let me take an example. Let me take master ops. See, provide user access to the AWS management console. What does this management console means? Management console means this UI which we are looking at. Okay, so there are two ways, like multiple ways which with which we can communicate to AWS. One is via CLI. We can simply go here, we can write AWS commands. I will cover that in later sessions, and then we can hit the request over this AWS account. One is this UI. So if you provide this management console, it means user can access to this UI, to this console, and they can access the resources here. If you select it, you have to provide the password. It's your call whether you want to provide the password or you want to auto generate it. So if you provide custom password, again using same. Okay, now this is one of the security parameter again. If you check it, then whenever this user login first time, they have to update the password. If you don't check it in, then they won't need it. So I'm leaving it as of now. Now I have to do next. Here we can add the user to a group. Okay, so I will be going to group later on, so let's leave it. So it is like if there is some existing group, we can add the user to that group so that it will have permissions which that whole user group have. Second thing is copy permissions. So here copy permissions means copying the permissions for this user. For the existing user, if you want to copy the permission, you can copy it. And the third one is attach policies directly. So here we have lot of policies. Okay, so I will cover this. I will create this user in last part of this session because this policies comes in the picture now. So let's go back to IAM. Now if we go to policies, okay, so basically policies are JSON documents which define the permissions. Okay, it define which access is allowed, which is denied, which actions are allowed, which are denied. So if you see, we have two type of policies. We have customer managed, we have AWS managed. So customer managed means the ones which are created by some IAM user. Okay, some user similar to this. Matlab means the user which is uh, the one which is created by any of the user. Another one is AWS managed. So these are the one which are provided by default by AWS, and we can use them as well. Okay, any doubts till now?
Brother, this is like we are creating these users for someone else. No? That's like
Yeah.
someone can access our account and
Yes.
they
So
can
let's
use our
suppose, okay,
AWS.
let's take the example. So let's suppose you are one client, okay, you created one root account. You can't provide everyone access to that root user. What you will do, you will go to users, you will create IAM account, and then you will provide it to your team. Okay, there you will block the access. Okay, I want this person to just create EC2 instances, so I will provide access to EC2 instance only. Okay, where these policies come in the picture. So what these policies are? Actions which someone can perform. So if I open any of this policy, okay, if I click on plus, see these are the JSON format. And if you see here, the most important part is this effect. Effect is allow. It means if I attach this policy to some role or to some user, it will be able to do, like it is allow, not deny here, right? So it will be able to do these all functions. So in the DynamoDB, it can create, it can list get resource policy. In DynamoDB, it can list these things. So these are multiple things, okay? So it is like, let me give more brief of it. This is basically, this policy basically define permissions for AWS resources, okay? Let me search for some very basic policy first. Read only access. Okay. If you see there, now let's go one by one. So this is the JSON format. Okay. Version.
JSON format means what is the
So there are like JSON, just it we can say it is a type of language, like file type, JSON, YAML, like these are simply the languages, okay? So in JSON
do we
we,
need to learn that brother in
no
order to
no
understand this one?
no, JSON is simply like, it starts with this code, and then we define it in the form of key here, in this in this form, like double quotes, key name, colon, then value, key, then value. So here value is inside the inside list again, and then this. So like you don't need to worry about JSON part. It is just simply key value format, okay? If you see, key value, key value, key value, key value, this whole value, okay? This is basically key value part, okay? Now let's go to that part. Okay, here what this version means. So version is basically policy language version. So this policy whichever I'm writing, this is the version for this. Keep use this, like every time you have to use this, because this is the current version that support all features. All features means these actions, all things it will use. So in each and every policy you don't need to know what is this, you can simply use this, okay? So basically what this is version element specifies the policy language. This policy language it is specify, and this version 2012-10-17, it supports all the features. So this is the current version. Until or unless AWS provides some new version, keep using this. And AWS generally don't provide this that frequently. If you see, this is from 2012 only, so I don't think you would need to update it anytime. Now these these parts, yeah. Do you have any doubt?
I'm fine.
Sorry.
I'm fine with that, no doubt, sir.
Okay. So statement. This is the main element of the policy. Inside this, what we have inside this, we have effect, we have action, we have resources, okay? We can have multiple statements in this as well. How many statement? One statement is this, another statement is this, another statement is this, and this four statements we have, okay? So basically what this is the main part of the policy. And what statement contains is, it contains these effect, action, and resources. Effect means whether you want to allow or you want to deny. with the help of this policy whether you want to allow anything or you want to deny. So two values are possible there, allow or deny. So we currently for this policy it is allow. Action is like what API actions are allowed or denied. If allow here, then these specify actions are allowed, these API actions. If denied here, then these are not allowed. So here you see these are the basic, like you don't need to learn these things, okay, like where easy to describe or what it is. You can simply Google it, because we have thousand or more even than that number of these actions. Each service has different actions. Even a service can have 100 or more actions, so you don't need to learn it. You just need to understand how it is going on, how it is working. So here if you see EC2 colon, this is some not this, this is some API action, get security group for VPC. Okay, if you want to know what this will do, you can simply copy it, paste it over internet. Here if you see API reference, this is the document for it, and get security resource for VPC. So it will list, or it will get security groups that can be associated by AWS. So it will list all the security groups for the VPC. Okay, now if you see here star, okay, what does that means? It means any action starts with this EC2 colon describe. So there could be anything after this star. So describe VPC, describe EC2, anything, describe instance. Okay, so basically this is the regex. We discussed about regex in Linux, right? Regular expressions.
Yes.
So this is for that. So if I go and paste it over internet, okay, this is the CLI command. If I do IAM actions, you see these are the actions: EC2 colon accept address transfer, EC2 colon public access key, EC2 colon region, and if I search for describe here, okay, so here if you see we have 339 number of described ones. Okay, so if I go to the top on again, if you see here EC2 colon describe star was there, right? Star was there here. It means it will include this, it will include this, it will include everything after describe. So don't think that this is just one action. This is
Okay.
like a combination of as much as actions which have anything in after this describe. Okay, so if I do EC2 colon describe, so these all will be included in it. So two things are there: either you define each and every one there, okay, copy and paste these things there in the policy, or else you simply use a star. Both will do same work. Now it comes to resource star, it means for each and every resource. Okay,
Like what are we are providing the
resource means, so what this policy is for, basically it is for giving the read only access of EC2 instance. Okay, provide read only access to EC2 via AWS management. Now we define all these actions that it will be able to describe everything, it will be able to list security groups as well. Now for the resources, which all resources will be allowed to be listed? Star means all resources. If you want read only access for 10 resources only, then you can list all those 10 resources here. You have to give the IAM ARN of those resources. Okay.
I have one doubt.
Yeah.
This is like read only, right? But
Ye-
we are not mentioning any in the in this code. We are not mentioning anywhere it is for read. Then how can we say it is read only?
yes. Okay. So these permissions, these actions define that read part only. Describe means you are not allowed to write anything, you are just allowed to describe. Okay, so these can be, you can read in there. Okay, describe. So if you go like here, okay, basically, but yeah, it is to describe is for like not for updating. Let me copy. Let me show you some other pipeline which will give full permission. Okay, so this is for read only access, and I'm opening now full access. Full access, it is giving EC2 star, so it is of no use as well because it is giving everything there. EC2 write everything. Let me find out some EC2 write part. Okay, so this is for list EC2 only. EC2 write. See, if you want to use that terminate, okay, so terminate means you will need write and this terminate access. So for that you have to add this policy there. But currently we are giving just describe there. Describe or get or list. These are just for list part. Okay, so even for CloudWatch, if you see list matrices, get matrix, describe everything. For same for auto scaling here. So these all parts, these all are the part of EC2. That's why it is giving these permissions. Okay. If you have to give all permissions of any resource, then you can simply allow star EC2 colon star. Star means everything. It will contain terminate instance as well. It will have uh, like stop instance as well. It will have everything, and on all resources. If you want only one machine to be updated, then you can add the ARN of that resource here. Okay,
Okay.
do you have any doubt?
No.
Okay, now inside these policies we can have different conditions as well. We can define in these conditions anything. So let me go and create one and show you permissions part. Let me go take it for EC2. I'm just allowing all actions. So you can create in this way as well. Okay, let me go back and show you again. So you can either create it via JSON. If you have JSON format, then you can provide all the details there. Okay, if you want to do it visually, you can select the service, like let's suppose you have to give me for EC2. Now what all permissions you need to provide? All list permissions are there. So if you see, these are the describe permissions mostly. Okay, describe, get, list, search. So these are the describe one list ones. If you want to give right one, then these are the right ones: delete, modify, reset. Okay, right means you can update these machine. So I'm giving all for now. Okay, and then we can add the condition. Let's remove it. Here we can define allow or deny. Okay, now we can add the conditions there. Conditions are like user will be able to see only if MFA is authenticated. MFA means multi-factor. If user is having multi-factor authentication, then only they will be able to see the resources. They will be able to access the resources. Otherwise, they won't be able to access these resources. Requested from IP, so you can block it. So it is like, let's suppose you just want your resources to be accessible from your organization VPN only. So what you can do, you can add your VPN IP here. Then if that IP is there, then all these resources will be visible, whichever are allowed it here, all EC2. Otherwise, no action will happen. Whatever action you define here, no action will happen if IP is different. We have lot of other conditions as well. If you see, if current time, if you want to make it like you just want to be accessible over that time only, then you can define the time date equals, like, let's suppose you just want it to be accessible for 1 day, so you can add today's date. Okay, and then it will be accessible over that day. So we have lot of things there: assume root, these time, date, epoch. Time, epoch is like timestamp currently. These all details, like these won't be all won't be needed for you ever. But yeah, like, if any, like, let's suppose there's some requirement for your organization, then you can come here and see. You should at least know, right, that whether this can be done or not. So this can be done, like you can add it on basis of IP, on basis of MFA and other things. Okay, I'm not adding any conditions as of now. Then I will click next. No resources are specified. Specify resources for selected action. Okay, here we can define the resources as well. I told you that we are currently providing star. Okay, if you want to give user specific, like resource specific, then you can add the ARN of that resource. So if you see here, add ARN, you can add the ARN. Okay, what ARN means? Let me show you. So I'm giving all for now. I can simply create next. I have to give the policy name. So make sure to give this policy name meaningful, okay? So that you will know in future for what purpose you gave it. So it is for EC2 full permission. So I can give EC2 full permissions. In description as well, you can give little more idea, little more descriptive part. And now it is created. Okay, this administrator access, this you can provide if you want to give access to all the resources over your account to someone, then you can give this administrator access. But sometime you would need to give billing access as well, so that will come under different part. So billing part is different and you need to give it explicitly. Even though if you provide access for administrator, they wouldn't have access to billing, so you need to provide billing access from here. So this is the billing policy. So currently we are talking about policies. So are you clear now what policies are?
Yes, sir, I'm clear.
Okay, now roles. What roles are? So basically roles are similar to users, but these don't have credentials. Okay, so roles are something which you need to assign internally in AWS. Okay, so let's suppose you create one EC2 instance and then you create one database. Now you want your database to be accessible from EC2 instance. What you will do, you will assign a role with database permissions. Okay, be mindful here. You have to create a role with database permissions and attach it to EC2 instance. You got the point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I did.
So you create one role. How to create a role? Role creation is nothing, just adding some policy to it. Okay. Again, you will select EC2 or what for whatever purpose it is. Now you will add the policy here. So if you want to give the for RDS, so let me give RDS full data access. Now I will click next. Again, give the name of this service. What role it is? Give RDS access. Now you give RDS access here. Here you it is already given the description. Once you create it, then you can simply attach this. Let me create it only. You created the role. Now what you can do, you can attach this role to EC2 instance. Okay, and then your instance will have access to that database, otherwise it won't have. So difference between user and roles is, roles are basically for internal use, and we can say these are similar to users but don't have permanent credentials. So these are just to be trusted by internal entities. Okay, like users, applications, we can use in that way. Now let's come back to users. Now you know about policies, right? Now if I create a user named master ops, I'm giving these access, I'm giving, so this is the password. You can write it like it will this account will get deleted within 3 hours from now. So within 3 hours, if you want, you can try to log into it. Okay, I'm deleting this. Now we can, if we have any group, we can add it to group. If we have existing user, we can grant existing user permissions, or else if you want to attach the policy, you can attach it. So if I attach now EC2 policy, here I'm going to select my policy which I created, create user. Okay, for the current user with which I am working, it doesn't have access to create the user, otherwise it will have created the user. Okay, so once you click on this create, it will create the user, and then you can access the user with the credentials. So you got the point of users as well now, how to create the user, how to manage it.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir, I got.
Okay, now
Okay.
one more.
Like we can give our like some of our AWS
Yeah,
to the
AWS.
other users while
Yes,
creating like these things users,
giving the
and we
access,
can have like a
giving
certain
this,
time for this.
yeah, giving AWS to someone else is something we can use with this AWS users. So IAM users, call them as IAM users. Okay, now now it comes to these access keys. Okay, so what are these access keys? So if you saw, I went inside user. I can go a root user can go inside any user, but if you are your user, then you can either in simply go inside your user only. Okay, so or else create a key for or look at the key. So this is one of the access key. So what these access keys are? So these access keys are something, you can say, the CLI credentials for your account. For this user, these are the CLI credentials. Do you understand CLI credentials? Okay.
Then we can use only those keys. Like users can use these keys, or like we can use them.
See, these this these keys, CLI keys, what these are? You are currently, I am currently accessing it over the UI console.
Mm. Mm.
Now I want to do something with my CLI with this
Okay.
command prompt. What will I do? I will create one access key. I will see how will this command. So if we have AWS CLI is in place, okay, how will
Mm.
my CLI know to which AWS account I have to send the request? It won't know, right? There,
Mm. Yeah,
at least it will need some authentication to the account to which it have to send the request.
mm.
So for that purpose we use these access keys. So let me create one access key, command line interface. So this is just the use case we need to provide, like we, yeah, it's like our choice, whatever we want to provide. It doesn't make sense, like, okay, I just understand like a recommendation and want to create this description, we can leave. Okay, so key is created now. Okay, now this is my access key and this is my secret key. uh, Now what I can do, I can go to AWS, I can run AWS configure command, and then I can add my access key there. So I already have that. I'm not going to update that access key because otherwise I have to keep that noted somewhere and I'm not sure whether I have it or not. So I'm not going to update it. But yeah, if you see, this is similar to what this key is. It will start with AKIA and these things. Now if I have earlier, then I can use that. Otherwise I can paste this key here. Okay, I can simply right click and paste it. I'm not going to paste it, I'm going to simply press enter. Now I have to add the secret key there. Secret key means this key.
Yes, sir. Perfect.
I'm going to show it anyways because this account is just from the playground, so it will get terminated in 3 hours. So this is the secret key. Once I press enter, it will ask me for default region name. Even though if I don't provide anything, it will take US East 1 as the default. Once I press enter, it will ask for output format, in which output I want. I'm doing JSON, it is default. Press enter, that's it. Now if I provide these all details, it means my AWS, my this AWS account is connected to my CLI. Okay, now I can run any command AWS S3 ls for listing all the S3 buckets. So if you see, all the S3 buckets are listed here. So this is how it works. Okay, so if I click on done, it will done. And so this is how these access keys are used. Console access enabled without MFA. So you can add MFA device here. MFA, you know, right? Multi-factor authentication.
Okay.
Okay. So you are now clear with how these users work. Now user groups. So let's suppose you want to create one DevOps group. You want to give same permissions to 10 users. What will you do? You will create one user DevOps. You will add the users. It's your call whether you want to add them initially or later on you can add as well. Then you can give all the permissions whichever you want to give. So let's suppose you want to create one admin group. You will give admin group their permission and create user group. User group is like, as I mentioned that I can't create it, but yeah, if you click on create user group, it will create that user group, and then you can add the users there. Okay, it is not created perfectly. I couldn't, like, user group was created, but I couldn't define permissions there because that permission I don't have. But yeah, if you have root account, then you can simply create it, add permissions there. Later on you can add permissions there as well. You add users there as well. Okay.
Uh, it's
Yeah.
like, can we only create a group and we cannot give to the people so that they can join and they create users?
No.
It's like we should always create a users also.
See, if someone is having, see, for creating the user, we need IAM permissions as well. So if you have provided those permissions to someone, then they will be able to create the user. IAM create user permission. Okay. IAM. So, full access read only. So if I go IAM full access, IAM, let me go over internet. IAM create user action. You can search for this every time. Create user. So if any user have this permission, create user, then they can create the user. Okay, not everyone can create the user. Whoever have access this permission. If you have given if you have given anyone access to this administrator, they will be able to create the user because they have all the permissions. They can create the user, and then they can add in inside the user group as well. They can do anything basically. It is, if you give administrator access, it's like the root account access. So any user which is having this administrator access will be kind of the root access, will be the, will like have some limitations like over the billing part, but rest others, they will be able to do anything. Okay, got it.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so here it comes to identity providers now. So identity providers are basically, these are for federate external entities. Okay, external identities with AWS. So it is like if you want to connect like Google authentication with AWS, then it will be used. Like this is like for connecting your AWS via some SAML, like uh, SSO or other things. This is, so if you want your users to be connect via SSO, then you can use this identity providers. Like you won't need these like initially, these would be needed later on at like if you have to make your account accessible via SSO or other things. Like you want to create some active directory where you will contain all the users and provide permissions there. uh, it support like web identity like Amazon, Facebook, Google. So this is for single sign on basically. Okay, so
After that single sign, then they will ask the credentials like to log in.
yeah, like with that you can set up like with Google account you can able to log into SSO. Okay,
Okay.
so now it comes to how many type of policies we have. So we have basically, these are the one type like customer managed or AWS managed. Another type is related to on which, like what is the basis. So one are identity based, one are resource based. So these identity based are like which are attached to resources directly, which are which are attached to users groups. So these identities we are attaching to users or roles, right?
Yes.
So these are the identity based policies. One are resource based policies. Resource based policies are one which gets attached to bucket to resources directly. So if you go to S3, okay, let me create one S3 super fast. I will give this session later on, like how to create this S3. I'm just creating one S3 bucket.
Okay.
I have created this S3 bucket, and if I go there, I can define the permissions there. So these are resource based policies. The policies which we define on the level of resource, which are attached directly to resource, are resource based policy. Okay. One other type of policies are inline policies. Inline policies are, here what we did, we define the policy there within the policy section, and then we have attached it to the user. One other thing is, once we are creating the user, if you see this is not that one. Cancel. If I go to roles or users, okay, if I create some role, if I select here, so these are inline, which are like, which we define directly when we are creating the resource. Hmm, let me those were there, wait a moment, I saw. Okay, so if you see, add permissions or create inline policy. So inline policy is like, we can directly define all the things there. Okay, and we don't need to go there and create the policy. So these are attached, embedded, or attached directly with this specific user or role. So these are not kind of reusable, these are just for this specific user. If I created it for KK Labs, basically I don't have access to create this user, put user, otherwise it will have. So these are the errors. So if you ever get this error, okay, put user policy, so what you can do, you don't know everything about these policies ever, so you can go and search, like few things, few policies have basic naming. So if you see put user policy, adds or update an inline policy document, okay, that is embedded in the specific user. So this is basically for uh, uh, this inline policy only. And so this is what inline policy is. So tell me, like, whether you have any doubts now or not.
But it's like these policies, like we have different policies for different users, and there are different like what when we will know like we should use these policies when it comes to like we
No,
have a user.
is
For
it,
example, the user is like a high priority user. Then we need to give like separate policies to
let me give
and
example,
roles.
let me give examples. Let's suppose there's one developer team working in your organization, okay, you are not supposed to give production credentials or production resources access to them. What will you do? You will create one user group, you will define them as developers there, okay. Currently I created for DevOps, you can create a group named developers. What policy will you create? You will create a specific policy which will contain the services which they need only, okay. You don't allow all actions, you will just allow list, read,
Okay.
list and read only. Okay, now for if you want some other resources to be added, let's suppose they need s3 access as well, you will just give list, read access to them. You like you are like DevOps team is responsible for creation of everything, so they need to raise the tickets to DevOps team, and DevOps team will create them. But yeah, they if they want to access them, they can access them. So you provided access to all the resources. Now if you even want to provide specific resources, okay, let's suppose you want to provide specific s3 bucket, then you can add ARN there. Okay, and okay, so let's come to bucket part, ARN part as well. So I'm going to s3 bucket which I created. If I go to properties, like in s3 we can go to properties, and this is the ARN, Amazon resource name. So ARN is basically Amazon resource name. So I will copy it, I will copy this ARN. This is unique for every resource. Okay, it automatically took this resource name, add ARN. Now this policy will have access to list and read all the S3, all the EC2 instances, while only read and list access for this specific bucket. So if you have some production buckets there, and you don't want even user, your developer team to see it, you can create one policy, just grant access to the ones which they want to see, create the policy. Okay, it is like your policy exceed the non-white space character of A. So this is sometime the issue when we provide too much resources access like this. Okay, because what we are doing now is, if I go to JSON form, these are in this form. So how, what I should do now is, I thi- like this is crossing the limit of how much long the this policy should be. So what I can do, again that s3 list star part. Okay, so what I can see is, I can look at these points. Okay, describe is there multiple times, get is there multiple times. So what I can do, ec2 get star, ec2 describe star, I think and s3 list star. So these are the things, like we can cover it in 5 7 lines. We can like like these much lines are there, 313, but all those have these common parts, so we can pull up the common part, and for rest other part we can use rejects like star. Once we create this policy, so this is just like, for resource, for s3 it will show this, for ec2 it will show every resource. Once this is created, you can go to user groups. For that developer group, I'm giving the example, like let's suppose it as developer group. In the permissions we can add that policy. Okay, attach policy whatever we created, then we can add the developers there. So for adding the developers, we need to create the user. We first we will create all those users, then we will add them here in that group, and then once they log in, they will be able to see only one s3 bucket, and they won't be able to update anything on those s3 buckets. They will be just able to list and read those s3 buckets. Do you have any doubts?
No.
Okay, then we are done.